Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my dream world. I'm back with my nostalgia trip, which is where I review shows that I watched as a kid and see if my opinion has changed and how my opinions are affected upon rewatch. So, heads up before I get into this, I am back at school, so I am in a college dorm. I will do my best to edit around any like sound things or whatever, but if you hear like a rumbling mini fridge or somebody giggling in the background, it's normal. Sorry, there's only so much I can do about that. But yeah, enough about that. So Ninjago rebooted. We've watched season one, watched season two. We loved it, of course. And by we, I mean me. I don't know about y'all, but I loved it. But season three. So, going into this, I know that there are very mixed opinions about it as far as I can tell from the fandom and like how people talk about this season. Um, so I go into the season with similar mixed opinions. I know that as a kid, this actually was, I think, my favorite season for a very long time. Or at least it was like at towards the top of my list. But as I got older and as I thought about it more, and then as I've rewatched it in the past couple years, it's kind of landed more in the middle for me. There are some parts that I love, and there are some parts that, well, we'll discuss. Quick heads up, if you have not seen Ninjago Rebooted Season 3, you are in for spoilers, and I will likely discuss some things from my previous and possibly future episodes, so please be aware of that. My nostalgia trip videos generally are in podcast format where I go through each episode individually and then come into an overall review and opinion for each episode and the overall season. So I may use clips and like edits to enhance my thought process and reaction or to just insert something cool to explain something. This is not a reaction video, it's more so a review and post watch commentary of the season. So if that's not your cup of tea, this probably isn't the video for you, but without further ado, let's get into the review. So here we have the season premiere, which takes place, let's say, like roughly a year after the like epic finale that we've just witnessed and covered in the last episode of Ninjago. It is mentioned to be a short while, quote unquote, but it still must have taken a while to rebuild the entire city because Ninjago City is now an extremely technologically advanced place, and the ninja have now had to get regular day jobs. So the time past it Ninjago timeline is weird. Let's just put it that way. Like now we get into the whole like, oh, how long has it actually been? Blah 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 blah, and we get scenes like this.
Hey, how about a little privacy? Oh, this isn't supposed to be in here.
I'm sorry. I can't with that scene. It cracked me up as a kid and it cracks me up now. Kai's freaking shower cap. Okay, I'll stop. But yeah, I guess in Ninjago teenagers can be teachers, so that's like I don't know, like back in the day, like 16-year-olds could kind of be teachers, like give or take. Whatever. The ninja are getting on each other's nerves, and as much as I love Cole, he would not have gotten away with eating my food. I do not play with food. Like if the man ate my pudding cup, there would be hands thrown. I don't care. They're also itching for a fight. It also seems like we kind of get this vibe right off the bat that Nia and Jay have kind of like distance, like they're setting boundaries. Like she immediately is like, what did we talk about, when he starts kind of getting all clingy to her, which is a good thing. I think that is a good thing. Like people get on Nia a lot this season, and you bet I will too. Spoiler alert, hint hint, I will get on her, but this is a good thing. Like boundaries, that's a good thing. But it also just kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, why haven't you done this already? It's been at least a year. If you know, you know. I feel like this should have been established a long time ago. So it was a little irky for me. basically the ninja have to now take their new students to a field trip at Borg Tower, which is like this technology genius level stuff. And thus begins the Kai hates technology gag too. And my man, how did you get stuck in an automatic door, honey, sweetie? Oh dear. And Kai's kind of a mess this season, but we still love him. Everyone is in awe when they get to the city and they enter Borg Tower, which is where we meet Queen Pixel, aka nude side character, aka future member of the team, and yes, Zane's love interest, and yes, introducing my favorite Ninjago ship. If y'all saw my crystallized, like, raw reaction, you'll know how much of a Pixane fangirl I am. But, yeah, so the ninja go meet Cyrus Borg while Nia Sensei and the students go on a tour. Lloyd is not present, by the way. I actually have not mentioned that yet. And thus begins the start of my biggest gripe with this season. The way that 10-year-old me was ready to yeet the remote controller into the screen when this happened. Like, I, for one, am and was a Nia and Jay fan, and Cole was my favorite, let's say. Like, keep in mind, I was like 10 or 11 years old, so give me some slack. But Cole was always my, like, you know, my bias, per se. So I didn't want to see any like matches with him at the time. Like, I was like, no, he's off limits. Obviously my stance has changed since then. It's been freaking 10 years. It's literally been 10 years. I think Rebooted came out in 2014 and it's 2024. But I am still very anti Nia and Cole, in case you didn't notice. I'm setting that standard right now. We're gonna get it out of the way and you're gonna hear me rant about it a lot, so I apologize ahead of time. But the ninja meets Cyrus Borg, and as this happens, we kind of figure out that sadly Dr. Julian has passed away. This is very sudden and not very well developed, but given the time skip and how old he was, it's understandable. Like, he probably just, you know, fizzled out. I don't like how they kind of just brought him back again and got rid of him, though. Like, that was weird. But we also find out that the tower is built right on top of where the Overlord was defeated, and that's something that we need to remember. Borg gives the ninja a gift, which appears to be quite useless at first because it's just like a big gold statue of himself or something, but he warns them, and he's like, you have to protect it, like, yeah, like, I shouldn't have built this tower here, like, he can hear me, and that definitely went over my head as a kid. Like, I did not catch that, like, I don't know, it just went completely over my head. But apparently Cole can casually lift a truck, but can't casually lift this statue. Like, maybe it's because it's like really dense and heavy, especially since they eventually end up like dropping it. Like, all three of them drop it when Kai lets go and it like shatters open. And then we are introduced to the Technoblades, and this causes like a huge alarm to go off, and the ninja are forced to like leap out of the crashing elevator. It's also revealed that the alarm seemingly has corrupted all of the machines, including Pixel, who then like suddenly spins around and attacks the kids, Nia and Sensei. It's also quickly revealed that the Technoblades aren't weapons per se. They're not super helpful in terms of attacks, and I'll note really quickly that once again, the ninja do not have access to their elemental powers. Told you, it has become a trend. I think we discussed this at the beginning of season 2 as well. But back in the tower, sure enough, the Overlord has somehow like corrupted the technology in the building, and he comes after Cyrus Borg.
Oh, throw me! Excuse me? Throw me!
I don't know why, but I always found that scene and Nia casually kicking Pixel in the face really funny as a kid. I mean, Cole just like kind of casually just yeets Zane. Okay, I'll stop. But this causes Zane to realize that the Technoblades are for hacking things rather than fighting. So it's like turning mechs into like their control. But now the technology starts turning on people too. Like all the mechs that have been helping out and stuff are like causing mayhem. Kai receives a pre-recorded message from Borg explaining how the Overlord has returned and reiterating that they need to protect the Technoblades, and Kai's all like, but eventually they kind of figure it out. But they get surrounded eventually, but this like burst of power comes in, which, kind of calms down the mechs and they turn back to normal. And now it's revealed that Lloyd has returned.
Robots versus Ninja? Dare I ask?
You are a sight for sore eyes.
However, this causes the Overlord to reveal himself, and he admits that he wants Lloyd's golden power, which forces everyone to, they kind of just go, we're gonna book it out of here as fast as we can. But they also have to, protect the Technoblades, and the Overlord's not gonna let them just leave, not that they have them. So Sensei kind of comes up with this plan. He kind of just, decides to take off with the Technoblades, apparently. He pretends to do so, and he sacrifices himself. However, it's revealed that he has given them to Kai, he dumps them into Kai's mech while he's running around, and this allows the ninja to successfully escape the city. However, Wu also gets captured, so it's uh-oh. And the last thing we kind of see of this episode is taking Zane's design and making an upgrade to it, and now Cyrus Borg is evil. So, he gets attached to this mech thing that turns him evil. And then, which is weird and confusing, but it's whatever. Then a bunch of robot ninja, aka ninjroids, are revealed to have been constructed very quickly, by the way. So, super advanced tech. So since this is the premiere, I am going to spend a little bit of extra time talking about it. I don't know. I know a lot of people actually really love this premiere. For me, it's okay. And that might be an unpopular opinion of mine. People sometimes think that this is the best episode of the season. I do think it's up there, but I don't know. Premiere-wise, it's not my favorite. I do think that it is better than the past two season premieres, though. And I'll kind of explain why. There is quite an abrupt shift here. From the previous season, and the pacing to me is just a little bit off. I feel like we could have had a better job at adjusting to this new environment and atmosphere. I think that the whole teacher subplot was a little bit stupid, and if you can't tell, I really don't like the direction they took me as character. I think I want to get this out of the way. I think it's great that Ninjago put a strong female character in the show, and that Nia has really solidified herself as smart, capable, and just great member of the team. But during this episode, it sadly just starts the beginning of a hot mess of an arc for Nia this season, and that's a shame. And I mean that genuinely, because I do want to support her character, and I will do so later, I promise you guys. But this season's a mess. I will note again multiple times, I can't. During this season, I just can't with her. She is insufferable for multiple reasons, and I'm going to rant about it later, but yeah. However, I did really enjoy the action scenes. If you look at it, the animation and the choreography is much crisper during this season. The overall aesthetics, I love the suits. I'm actually a fan of the half mask thing, because then we can see their hair. I know my mom kind of joked, because I got some new, Ninjago plushies for the winter holidays. And my mom was like, I can't tell who's who because I can't see their hair. And I was like, Mom, you can't recognize them by their colors. And she was like, no, it's just their hair. So I thought that was kind of a funny thing to mention. Of course, also, I have to love the introduction of Pixel, who is definitely one of my favorite characters. I also think that the fact that this season is shorter does hinder the pacing a little bit. I'll get into that later. More so at the end probably, but just keep that in mind. Overall, it is a good introduction to the season. It's just not my favorite episode or premiere, but like I said, I do think it is the strongest premiere overall, so far, by the way. Definitely will change later, but I think that this episode could have been cleaner if it was a two-parter or was not necessarily a two-parter, but it's like set over more than one episode because I feel like we crammed so much into this premiere and that just makes it a bit harder to absorb and follow. I think as a kid, I didn't really pay attention to the details of this episode because there were a lot of lines that I remembered from like jokes and funny moments, but also a lot of lines that I forgot, and the lines that I forgot were the plot oriented lines. So I don't know, take that as you will, but that was just something I thought I'd note before I move on. So that's the premiere. Like I said, I generally spend a little bit more time on the premiere and on the finale because it's a new season. But now I'm going to get on to the main episodes of the season. Okay, so now we're getting to the episodes where, and this is going to be a trend, there's stuff that I like and stuff that I can't stand. So I actually watched this episode not too long ago while I was at the dentist. It was about 6 months ago. I have since moved up from pediatrics, but they only had Netflix Kids at the place where I was going at the time. So I was like, y'all, can you just like put on Ninjago? And they were like, yeah, sure. And they played this episode. And they were like, oh my gosh, is this episode okay? And I was like, just play it, dude. I've seen all of them. I will watch any and all of it. But I feel quite similar now as I did that day, which was about 6 months ago. So the intro was interesting and actually kind of unsettling, showing like the ruined city. I thought that was kind of cool. And then it leads into Pixel and Borg beginning to resummon the Overlord. I thought that that was a neat choice, and it definitely wasn't something that I remembered for some reason. But I do remember this next part. Sensei has been captured, and he gets basically mind warped, just like Borg was. For now, the ninja are in hiding, and Misako shows up. And Loki roasts Woo's age. Ew, more love triangle also. And Misako, why are you encouraging this? You know that love triangles are not a good thing given your experience. Also, Nia, sweetie, your reason for liking Cole is because he's quote unquote not Jay. Even though in season 1, you literally had an episode where you're like, Jay, you're the best you, and why? Yes, I will continue trashing the love triangle this entire time. And I have done so a lot at this point. So if you don't want to listen to that, click off this video because it's going to be too much for you. But now we meet the icon, the GOAT, the absolute G, Sensei Garmadon. As you may have been able to guess by that sentence, I love this version of Garmadon. I love that he takes no BS and is willing to kind of embarrass the other ninja. Granted, it is good to be humbled from time to time and show that they're not invincible and they still have room to grow. But he also still teaches them some really great lessons and is like I love him so much. You'll hear me love him a lot. While the others kind of head into Sensei Garmadon's monastery, Zane stays behind to watch the Technoblades, but they get stolen by a still hacked Pixel. Zane manages to capture her where they use Nia's scream. Okay. And he uses the Technoblades to bring her back to normal. And because of that, she kind of spills and is like, so the Overlord is like planning this, and the Technoblades are super important, but she's also kind of like, I didn't come alone, y'all. And then we get into a really great action scene. I hate watching Zane get beat up, but we do get some cool moves from Sensei G and a Willem scream moment, which is funny. And the establishment of the threat level at this point. The ninja do manage to escape and take refuge in some kind of like magician circus train, it looks like. And they use their vehicles as a decoy. I thought that was kind of cool. And they decide to split up from Lloyd and Garmadon to protect, like to have Lloyd in one place and the Technoblades in another, so it's harder to pursue both of them at the same time. That was kind of cool. They also decide that they need to cause a power outage to do so, but they do also realize, like, oh shoot, this is gonna deactivate Pixel. So don't tell Zane. But it seems that the Overlord also is, like, kind of planning for this. Pixel repairs Zane, and they have a really cute moment, but Pixel at this point hasn't, like, fully grasped motion and connection to other things yet, so she kind of shuts him down, and there's some awkwardness there, but I do like that because it gives room for development for this couple. Did I mention that they're my favorite couple? But like, I like that they're not immediately just like all lovey-dovey. I like that. Like, Zayn is clearly smitten, but he's clearly into her, but she kind of like, and she is too, but she kind of is just like, no, no, wait, let me pull back. So that like slowly develops over the course of the season, which I do love. Lloyd and Garmadon's banter throughout this episode is great. It shows their closeness, but still acknowledges the past. We do get a scene with Nia and Cole where Cole initially shows a completely platonic and indifferent reaction.
I meant our students, weirdo.
But then she starts flirting with him, and it kind of seems like he's enjoying that. Did I mention that this is because a machine told her that she'd be a good match with him? Ew. Like, as I've mentioned, Nia is quite insufferable during this season, which makes me sad. Like, I really want to support her character, but I'm just not vibing with her. And then we go into the power outage scene and the introduction of Mindroid, who is an icon, by the way. Pixel also proceeds to be iconic, and Zayn adorably defends her and is like, you didn't fix me, she did. I was like, yes, king. And as this is happening, Lloyd and Garmadon get chased down by this like giant dragon mech that the Overlord has made. Again, I love the action scenes in this season. They're really fun and engaging, and I feel like they're also more like intense than previous seasons. They are a little rushed, I will say, but otherwise I enjoy them. The ninja can't figure out how to get to the tech system, but then when like Mindroid like ends up getting into the room where they are, they use Sensei G's fight without fighting technique to destroy it, and like while Mindroid is like firing beams at it, it breaks the power source, and then like they let a bunch of Nindroids in, and this deactivates pretty much everything, which depletes the Overlord's power sources, but then Pixel ends up shutting down, and then we get a really sad and sweet scene with her and Zayn. No, I totally did not tear up during this scene, but I digress. Lloyd and Garmadon also decide to keep moving because the Overlord is still going to be tracking them. I will note real quick, actually, when I first watched this season, they kind of like ended it here, and then the later episodes didn't come out for a while after that. Like the first two came out, like I might be mistaken, I might have just watched it weirdly, but I remember like the first two came out, and then there was like a big gap between the next, and then there was like, it was weird. It was like there was two, and then we got the rest of it, but it was weird. So like it just like ending with Pixel dying was like so sad. I remember being like genuinely really sad during that. I was like, poor Zayn, poor Pixel, ew, Nia and Cole, ugh. Like that was basically my reaction to that at the time. As for now, overall very 50-50 about this episode. There are things, again, like I said, that I really liked, but there are also things that I didn't like. But even with the more negative parts, this episode is fine. I just don't really have strong feelings about it. Okay, so this episode seems to be considered one of the worst episodes of the season. So going into that, I was like, okay, because I don't remember hating this episode or anything, so I was just like, okay, we'll see how I feel. The episode starts with Garmadon mentoring Lloyd, reminding him not to rely on anything too much since that will imbalance him. A good lesson overall, especially for Lloyd, who seems to be in need of some humbling this season because he's getting very cocky and impulsive. Also, I think it's cute that the Falcon is with them. I just thought I'd mention it. Like, I love the Falcon. The power outage has caused Cyrus Borg to kind of return to his normal state, and he's worried because his hard drive is missing, and Sensei Wu is still gone. We then shift to this scene where the Overlord is reactivated due to another power source that is found. It's called, like, the Electro Cobra, and, we meet a mystery character who is in a white robe. These two characters end up allying, and an evil version of Wu is revealed and activated through the new power source. In the meanwhile, the ninja are at Ed and Edna's junkyard. Here, Zane decides to give up half of his power source to repower Pixel, which is adorable because Zane acknowledges that not only is Pixel important to the mission, but she's important to him too. Oh my gosh, I love this couple. It's adorable. However, here's a very rare Pixel L. She encourages the love triangle. And even Zane is shook. Like, Zane is like, don't you mean Jay? Like, girl, are you tripping? Like, even Zane is like, me and Jay is super cute, if a little underdeveloped. But unfortunately, Jay walks into this discussion and he lashes out because of insecurity. And then him and Cole get in a fight for basically the rest of the season, which, did I mention, I absolutely hate for more than one reason. Again, Lloyd shows that he's having trouble branching out with his new powers, once again proving that he's relying way too much on his golden power. Cole and Jay begin a very childish fight, and we get the iconic "maybe you belong together" line, which is honestly the only thing that saves this moment from being hot trash. I don't ship Jay and Cole or anything, but that line is just hilarious, especially considering that there are people that ship Jay and Cole or have like certain headcanons about them, so that line just kind of made me like I will note that I first saw this episode in another language when it first came. I don't remember, I think it might have been like Japanese or something, but that like it made it 10 times funnier. I just remember that when I first saw this episode because I was so desperate to watch it. I was like, I don't care if it's in another language, I need to watch it. But as this is happening, Evil Woo appears and we go into another action scene.
They almost hit my mother!
I also love that Ed and Edna just kind of dip and low-key damage the Nindroids with the bubbles from their like little jetpack thingies or whatever. That was kind of cute. Zane and Pixel discovered that while splitting his power source kind of inhibits his fighting ability, it also enhances Pixel's, which kind of like establishes their connection even more. Then we get the whole like stupid black and blue wire scene where apparently there is some kind of debate about which wire she cut. I was always under the impression, even as a kid, that she cut both of them at the same time because she's an indecisive language person. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt, honestly, and say that it's because she didn't want to risk cutting the wrong one, so she just kind of chopped them both at the same time. But my point still stands. Sensei Wu beats up Kai, and it turns out he can also power up other things with his, like, staff. Cole and Jay immediately go back to feuding despite apologizing to each other while on the brink of death, and the others discover evil Sensei. Luckily, Zane and Pixel kind of manage to subdue him, but then the cloaked character frees him and the two escape together. That they do find a little clue that the cloaked figure leaves behind. They also warn Lloyd about what happened, which turns out to be a mistake. So then we get this like weird scene of a little raptor and how Lloyd has good intentions but like acts impulsively despite this because the little like baby bird keeps falling, like almost falling off the cliff, and then Lloyd grabs it and Garmadon's like, no, don't do that, his dad is gonna get mad. And then like sure enough, the dad bird like comes and freaking snatches Garmadon. And then Lloyd is like, oh shoot, but this like kind of forces him to tap into his elemental potential, and he manages to catch Garmadon by like forming a Lego hand mountain. And then the little bird also learns how to fly. This scene was definitely a little like filler thing, but I guess it's trying to teach the lesson of growing up and tapping into your full potential. I do think it's a little bit goofy, but it is kind of explaining how Lloyd needs to continue growing as a person and with his powers. They decide to head into this like jungle like labyrinth called Hiroshi's Labyrinth to shelter themselves, but it turns out they're being tracked by the cloaked henchmen. It's a little confusing how this is happening. I definitely didn't grasp it as a kid, but the message the ninja sent allows them to track Lloyd through the Falcon. So surprisingly, I don't hate this episode as much as the fandom does, but it's definitely the weakest so far. it has some good Sensei G and Pixel dynamics, or Pixane dynamics, but the love triangle and the overall pacing is kind of a mess. It has some good Sensei G and Pixane dynamics, but the love triangle and the overall pacing is a bit of a mess, so that hinders this. I understand why people think this is one of the weakest episodes of the season, and while I don't think it's necessarily the least entertaining, it was a mess. Sorry guys, it kind of was, but it has its good moments. I don't think it's a trash episode or anything. The ninja arrive back at the depowered city, where a bunch of angry citizens appear, once again proving Garmadon's point about relying on things too much. This is a good lesson, by the way, y'all. Pay attention. The Technoblades are a little useless now since the Overlord's hard drive is now missing, but the ninja continue with their plan of visiting the Serpentine. Cole's attention-seeking and Jay's insecurity continue to be annoying AF, and by the way, Jay, I liked Cole until this stupid feud. Thank you very much. And also thank you to Zane and Kai for being pretty consistently pleasant throughout this season. Mostly Zane. Kai is kind of stupid in some episodes too, but I overall like Kai in this season a lot. While the Overlord continues to scheme, Lloyd and Garmadon are making their way through the labyrinth, and Lloyd expresses his frustration about hiding and being away from his friends, which is totally understandable. In the meanwhile, the ninja find out where the Serpentine are, and their seal has somehow been opened. Is this ever explained? Maybe in a future season I'm forgetting, I don't know, but somehow they've been freed to the point where they can go shopping, because Scales has a thing of groceries. They find Scales, and it turns out that he has a family, and the Serpentine are kind of just chilling in that chamber. They decide to let the ninja in so they can hear about the legend of the Golden Master, who they initially believe is Lloyd. Dareth is leading the students into a field trip aquarium kind of thing, where he is rambunctious as ever, but I actually kind of liked him in this episode since he was actually useful. But I also thought his interactions with this Sally kid or whatever was a little bit sus. I don't know if anybody else got those vibes, and it was just kind of creepy. But since it's not super relevant, I digress. Mr. Cloaked Mystery sneaks in during this process and steals all the electro-code thingies, as well as almost kills the children, and obtains the resources that the Overlord needs. The Serpentine give the ninja a rundown and claim that they don't want to get involved with whatever is happening on the surface. At the surface. They hear the legend of the Curse of the Golden Master, which we get. So this is a lore moment, I guess. So we hear about the Serpentine, their past, and the prophecy of the Golden Master becoming too overpowered, and how the Serpentine weren't always in the wrong. I do feel like this is a little jumbled and inconsistent with some past and future lore, but this also can be because we're hearing it from their perspective, so it's a little mixed up. This scene always kind of creeped me out as a kid. I think it's because of the weird music combined with the weird close-up of the Golden Master. So yeah, that was creepy. Again, the ninja worry that they're referring to Lloyd during this story. Borg kind of uses Pixel to reactivate his office with power, and they have a kind of sweet conversation where he goes, Pixel, you belong to nobody. If you want to be with Zane, or if you want to do whatever, do it. So I thought that was kind of sweet. It did kind of make me sad to hear Pixel be all you own me, and yeah, she's a machine, but it was just, I don't know, it was a sweet moment there. In the process, they get a signal of Nindroids surrounding them, and Pixel's kind of wait a second, this is only possible if they're beneath us, underground. And sure enough, while the ninja are pondering about the whole situation, the Nindroids attack.
We're under attack! Protect the Nindroids!
I don't know why I always found that moment funny. I don't know, maybe them just screaming and rushing on with the baby snakes. I don't know. But we get another pretty solid action scene And the ninja eventually figure out how to depower the Nindroids by breaking off the Electro Cobras, and we get a kind of cute Jaya moment that reminds us that it never should have been messed with. The Overlord starts threatening the ninja, and the Serpentine are kind of like, so we have an idea about who the cloaked person is. And so we cut to Lloyd and Garmadon, who have reached the Jewel of the Labyrinth. Gorgeous backdrop, by the way. But the Nindroids crash their party. This leads to another great action scene, and we get Garmadon versus Wu. Lloyd tries to use his powers to escape, and he manages to fend off the Nindroids that are chasing him. But once he gets out of the labyrinth, he reaches this cliff, and the giant dragon mech thingy shows up and reveals that Garmadon has been captured. He's like, Lloyd, get the heck out of here, doesn't matter, like, go. But the Overlord is like, I'm going to yeet Garmadon into the water below if you leave. And so Lloyd's like, shoot, what? So he tries to conjure his powers, but then he gets captured and restrained by this, like, snake coil thingy, which was sent by the cloaked character, who is revealed to be our good friend Pythor Peach Humsworth, who is now white because he swallowed the Devourers. Ugh. But yeah, he's back and evil as ever. Lloyd is taken captive and Garmadon is tossed into the waters below. Honestly, this scene made me really, like, emotional as a kid. It's really sad, especially since we know Lloyd already has a lot of, like, daddy issues and trauma surrounding his father, and that in his eyes, Garmadon, who he is now bonded with as, like, his dad, has probably drowned. I mean, obviously, Garmadon's fine, but this was actually kind of a Last Hope style ending from the previous season where the heroes take a pretty big L and things look pretty grim. But it keeps us on edge. Again, like I said, since the episodes were released weirdly when this first season was coming out, as far as I remember, like, seeing this and then it just, like, ending there, I was like, no! But yeah, again, we know that Garmadon is fine. I mean, like, literally at the end of the episode, he kind of, like, is like, I'll find you, son. But I definitely think this is the strongest episode so far and one of the strongest episodes of the season. Okay, so as far as I know, this episode is kind of split opinion in the fandom. I know I didn't really care for it as a kid, and if I ranked the episodes before my rewatch, it probably would have been at the bottom. But it kind of grew on me. The episodes with Cyrus Borg continuing to, like, he's continuing to find a plan to wipe away the virus that is the Overlord, and he's like, Zane's power has made me realize that I can do this remotely and without the hard drive that is still stolen. A little confusing to me as a kid and kind of comes out of nowhere, but I guess they needed something to build off of. Their plan is to digitally enter the ninja into the Overlord's domain and have them battle him there. So it's kind of like Matrix, right? Like, I've never seen the Matrix, but from what I've heard, this is very, like, Matrix sci-fi vibe. However, this is one of those things where, like, if you die or gets trapped in that world, you're kind of screwed. A bunch of angry citizens come in and they're like, oh my god, you have power, give us power, 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 la 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 la. But then, like, a bunch of golden power kind of activates everything, and it's revealed, like, okay, the Overlord has begun draining Lloyd's power. This poses to be a problem because now the Overlord basically has his army back, and this forces a massive lockdown. They use the angry citizens to kind of, like, stall everyone while they go into the Digiverse, but Borg's evil walkie thingy, like, creeps in and attacks him while the ninja are attempting to figure out the digital world. And then the Overlord finds them and is like, mwahaha, my world, my rules, and everyone's in trouble, and we get that, like, crazy shot of everyone being like, wah. Pixel manages to break through and save the ninja from dying, something bad. The Overlord continues to cause trouble, and Nia manages to hold off the Overlord's Nindroids, but Evil Wu and Pythor kind of slip in. The ninja use the Technoblades to create their vehicles. Only Kai consistently struggles throughout this episode. Pixel holds off Wu and Pythor, so good for her. Borg kind of gets snatched, though, but the ninja reach the activation port, but then the Overlord appears, like, in the system and is like, no, ma'am. And then the ninja are like, okay, we gotta reroute this somehow. Wu almost shuts down the entire thing in the real world, but then somebody, like, comes in and just, like, freaking yeets him out of a window, and so it reveals that Garmadon is fine, because it happens to be Garmadon. This is kind of unexplained. Like, how the heck did he get here so quickly? He was in the freaking ocean. I mean, I'll allow it because it's Garmadon, but this is another, like, writing thing that I'm kind of just like, okay, wait, how did we get here? We get another round of Wu versus Garmadon. Back in the Digiverse, Lloyd manages to break through. I guess it's kind of implied that, like, his golden power is what allowed this connection. Like, I heard some people being like, why did Zane turn gold? I think it's like all connected back to the golden power. That is my theory. It's a little unclear, but that's my theory. Again, little unexplained, but Zane and Lloyd kind of have this, like, telepathic, you are not alone moment, and then Zane does his, like, iconic turning gold, and yeah, it's confusing, but they're able to reroute it. Kai, of course, has a lot of doubt about the whole situation, and he ends up being the one where it's like, oh no, Kai, it's down to you, like, are you going to be able to do it? But he manages to kind of break through and figure it out. It's kind of implied also that it's due to some inspiration from Zane, I think, but yeah, he makes it, and they manage to stop the Overlord and fix the corrupted system. Wu also kind of snaps out of his whole thing, and he saves Garmadon, who, like, falls off of the building. But everyone's fine. Due to everything shutting down, Lloyd is in trouble because the dragon is, like, about to explode, the dragon mech thingy. But he manages to escape and recover. The ninja then are like, okay, we gotta find Lloyd, and we gotta find Borg. However, the Overlord manages to gain enough power to escape. So a lot happened here. I do think the writing overall up to this point has become quite messy, but despite that, I kind of like this episode. Like, we do get some bickering between Cole and Jay, but there's little to none of the love triangle. We get Wu back, and we have some really fun moments between the team, like Kai being the one that's freaking out, Jay being like, oh yeah, heck yeah, and then, like, Cole and Zane kind of being in the middle. This seems to be unpopular, but I actually liked this episode. I didn't like it, I mentioned this already, but I didn't like it as a kid. But I think that was mostly because I was confused and, like, didn't understand why this episode existed. And I usually would skip it whenever I watched the season. My biggest gripe is that there are a lot of weird, like, plot holes and lazy writing pieces when it comes to them actually completing the mission, and that makes things very confusing and hard to put together, but so far I have found this episode more enjoyable than most of this season, surprisingly, despite it not being super plot-oriented in general, because it's just another one of those, like, yay, we did it! Oh, wait, we didn't. Oops. That's basically what this season is, by the way, but we're kind of heading in closer to the finale, so let's see where we go from there. Okay, so I still am a little confused about the title of this episode. Like, I know why. I've seen the show multiple times, but it's just weird. Okay, whatever. The episode starts with Pythor, like, scuba diving or something, and he finds the Overlord, and then we quickly shift into a scene with the ninja at the Temple of Light, I think. Lloyd gives up the remainder of his golden power, giving the ninja their raw elemental powers back. So now without weapons, it's just them and their powers. Garmadon's kind of like, why the heck is he doing this? But Wu is like, let's see where they take this, because this could work. And now Evil Borg is back serving the Overlord. The Nindroids are suspicious about what's actually going on, but then we get, like, a really disgusting scene of Pythor, like, coughing up the Overlord, which I skipped. If y'all have seen some of my previous videos, you know that I have emetophobia, so anything, like, vomit-esque or, like, coughing up stuff, I don't like it. It is triggering and it gives me a lot of anxiety, so I skipped that part and thus missed a little bit of the Overlord's rant. where he first mentions Project Arcturus, hence the title, and it explains that if Lloyd truly has given up his power, then they don't need to hunt him down anymore. So that's both good and bad. The ninja have intercepted this message and they're trying to deduce what it means as well as find like his army. Wu and Garmadon are kind of like, is it like an old Serpentine general and like a celestial zodiac thing? Like, I don't know. And Pixel manages to kind of spot Cryptor driving around with some giant trucks. So they're like, okay, they're making something. We get more love triangle BS, which I will ignore because it's stupid and y'all know how I feel about it at this point. Wait, what? What happened to Cole's eyebrows? I never noticed that. And like while I was watching, like groaning and moaning about it, I was like, what? Also, Nia, sweetie, your indecisiveness out of nowhere and the combination of you starting this whole mess and then like the whole reprogramming comment, it's not a good look, sweetie. You can do better than that. I will mention that all three of them are super immature throughout this whole thing, but Nia, sweetie, you're the worst culprit right now. Stop. Let's focus on Kai flirting with this like random blonde girl only for Pixel to like call him and ruin his date. This scene is iconic. Like I know a lot of people reference this scene. We get a pretty good action scene. It's iconic and Kai is a freaking huge idiot during this scene, but who cares because it's Kai. Pixel also kind of drags him, which is hilarious, but then Kai takes things into his own hands, and while he does like do a pretty good job considering that it's only him, he makes a lot of really careless mistakes despite claiming not to be careless, and Pixel tries to take over and he almost like dies multiple times. He does manage to like make it out and is like, okay guys, the Overlord is revived, but then Pythor finds him and knocks him out before he can actually get back, and he's taken captive. Zane kind of figures out that Pixel's database doesn't necessarily remember everything, and finally the show somehow manages to make Wrong Place, Wrong Time from season 2 relevant and less of a hot mess. I guess bad writing helps bad writing? Okay, I'll stop hating. But Zane and Garmadon managed to figure out that the golden weapons have been sent back to space. If you recall that little glint at the end of Wrong Place, Wrong Time, yep, the Overlord is going to space to get the golden weapons. Garmadon deduces that they must be at Ouroboros because that's where the Serpentine studied the stars. Like, I guess that was the weird way they like connected it back to the Serpentine and Arcturus. It's weird, but whatever. The ninja arrive right as Pythor is about to launch this like giant spaceship. Like, how did they have time for this also? Like, I mean, change of plans again and again, and yet you have time to build a freaking rocket? Unless they planned ahead, like they had like a plan B, C, D, I don't know. But yeah, another reason why I have so many gripes with this season. Whoa, why did they fall like that? Okay, sorry. But that looks like a very bad way to fall. Kai kind of manages to like break out of his captivity chains or whatever. But then Lloyd gets jumped by Evil Borg and the Nindroids start boarding the spaceship and the ship gets launched. Lloyd kind of goes like, okay guys, I'm going because we have to stop them, so y'all better come with me, and they do, and Garmadon is like super ticked, but at this point like what's done is done. Honestly, this episode did have some fun moments. If there was less focus on the love triangle, this would be one of the best episodes of the season for sure, but because of that, there was like it was way too rushed for me. I feel like it would have been better if we saw more of the ninja in the original plan and had like a bigger scene where they're trying to like get the ship not to launch at the end. Like, I feel like instead of the love triangle, there could have been more action and it would have been even better. So the next episode dives right into the whole space thing. It's really neat. This is actually part of the adventure that I wish was explored more and expanded on. It could have made for less rush season and have some of the other filler and not so great parts cut down. But I'll just get into the episode right off the bat. The part of the ship that the ninja are on is about to like detach, which I think like does happen when you like go on a rocket to space. Oh, excuse me, I burped. But this forces the ninja to be like, okay, we have 5 minutes to find spacesuits before we die, so let's go. Nia and the rest of the team kind of like break through to them thanks to Pixel, and they like guide them throughout this. Also, poor Lloyd is getting like knocked around this whole time. Like Cole accidentally punches him in the face. I think Kai like slams into him and he's just like, ah! Like the whole time. It's kind of funny, but also poor Lloyd. Due to the conditions, it's up to Zane to get the spacesuit. Of course, it's extremely dangerous. But I love the way they portrayed how big space is and like how dire the conditions are, especially because like Zane right off the bat goes like flying out of the ship and starts hurtling towards Earth. And he's like, oh right, I have powers now, and he like uses them to get back to the spacesuits in time, and it's fine. But I love that portrayal. Like it's intense. It's really neat to watch. This is why I'm saying like I wish they maybe like had this whole part be like the second half of the season in space, and then the first half was like them being like, oh shoot, we can't outrun them, let's go to them or something. I should do like a how would I rewrite it kind of video or something, but I'll get back to the episode. The ninja now with spacesuits do end up being discovered by the ninjroids, but Jay kind of like manages to figure out how to make things work. But then Cole does spin jitsu and ends up flying off the ship. Again, I really liked how like scary and dire they made this whole sequence for the ninja, but luckily Jay is able to save them, but their banter, whatever. The ship ends up going like through a comet, and then like back in the tower, a bunch of ninjroids show up and the team is forced to retreat. We finally get like a reveal of the Overlord, and Garmadon like suggests going, he's weak now, we should fight him, but Wu is like, no, we have to wait. And then Borg like hears them. Pixel manages to like summon this little airship so they can escape, and then the big spaceship crash lands on some kind of like planet or galaxy, I don't know. The weapons have been found, once again proving that they're too powerful to be touched physically by pretty much anyone. The ninja end up getting attacked by some sort of like alien bug parasite, which is really gross, and this gives them away, but it also disrupts the ninjroids who like rush back to the ship. Instead of like fighting off the bugs, Lloyd is like, ooh, we should go like get the parasites to attack the ninjroids, and we get a really, really cool chase scene. Like this is one of the best action scenes in the season. And they get the launch key, but then when they get back to the ship, the parasites have also like pretty much destroyed it. So the ninja are stranded in space, and the ninjroids are like, lol, haha, and like just fly away. So it ends on a pretty dark note, and yeah, I really liked this episode. I think this might be one of the strongest episodes of this season. I do again think that it is extremely rushed, which is my only real issue with it, but it has a lot of great things about it, definitely at the top for me. Again, with the whole like, oh, hopelessness ending and setting us up for a really intense finale. Again, I wish they did this like with a little bit more space to develop and stuff. But overall, really loved this episode, definitely at the top for me. And now we are here at the finale of this season, which is both iconic and infamous for many reasons. The episode starts off with the ninjroids arriving with the golden weapons, and the Overlord is like, prepared to absorb them or whatever, or use the armor. Cyrus Borg is like, they're like, you're useless now. So he kind of like rushes off and is like, okay, how can I stop this? Nia, honey, you gotta stop it with the whole can't I care for both of you thing. Like, girl, you started it, and now you're dragging it on and stringing both of them along, and you changed your tune multiple times. If you really were a girl boss, you would have ended it. with both of them. Based on all of the quarreling that it caused, you should have just been like, nope. But also, as we soon learn, it actually isn't all about your relationship with them at all. Like, you know, I'll get into that in season 4. However, the ninja kind of discover that with the power that they now have, they can reconstruct the metal into a vehicle and get back to Ninjago. Also, not Kai calling Cole's super strength manpower. That gave me a nice giggle, and the lava shippers are having a field day right now. But the Overlord has gained enough power and is now beginning to take over Ninjago City. The ninja managed to arrive back to Ninjago safely, and the group meets up with Cyrus Borg at this like random ancient temple that apparently has always been there conveniently. The Overlord has begun to take over the city, and Nia ends up getting knocked down, and then like the whole plan gets messed up. But and then the Overlord starts this like huge funnel of spinjitzu. The ninja do like make it to the temple. And also, did I mention how freaking disgustingly sexist Cryptor is? Like, gross. Spoiler alert, I'm glad that he gets blown up and that he gets his butt kicked by Mindroid, who is still an icon. Borg reveals that he has this like pill that's basically a shrinking pill. If you eat it, you shrink. So the ninja are like, all right, let's get the senseis close and then have them like slam the pill into the Overlord with some like martial arts baseball-esque stuff. They also are given this like stone army armor, which should fend off the Overlord's powers. Pixel promises, like, she goes like, don't worry, Zane, I promise to see you again. But as this happens, the shield kind of breaks down, but the armor does defend from the Overlord's powers enough for them to get close. Pythor is kind of telling them like, okay, attack the people then, so they have to divert their attention, which was kind of a smart moment. But then the Serpentine jump in and are like, people of Ninjago, follow me, and I'm like, W for scales. The senseis do manage to do their thing, but then Pythor ends up swallowing the pill, which leaves them nothing to weaken the Overlord. I guess we do get tiny Pythor though, who is kind of fun. But now the ninja are in deep trouble, and the Overlord captures everybody except for Zane. However, Zane is like, support me, friends, for one last time. And here we go. He manages to latch himself onto the Overlord, which weakens him. And the ninja are released. However, this now puts Zane in an extremely dangerous position because he's holding on to the golden weapons, and like he starts blowing up basically. And then the ninja are like, oh my god, Zane's gonna die. But they're forced to just take cover and can only watch as Zane sacrifices himself. And then we go into the flashback sequence, which almost always gets me. Let me explain how much this scene has affected me. So when I first saw this scene at age, I think 10, maybe 11, I was so shocked that I didn't even absorb what was happening. So when Zane exploded and then like the little scrap of his face was revealed, I actually went and replayed the entire scene because I was so shook that I didn't absorb what was happening. I genuinely think that my system was so shocked that I didn't cry. I didn't even cry the first time I watched this. But then as I kept rewatching the scene more and more and then actually managed to process what happened, I lost it. If y'all have heard like my previous analyses and opinion videos as well as my Miitopia series, you probably know that Cole is my favorite ninja. And to this day, he still is. My original favorite, and my favorite for these first few seasons upon rewatch, it's always been Zane. And oh my gosh, seeing this scene is absolutely heartbreaking. I know there's like debate on what the saddest scene in Ninjago is, and it kind of fluctuates for me, like it depends on the day for me. I'm very indecisive. But this scene will always be the one that like affected me on a deep level. I didn't cry too much during this specific rewatch, but my heart definitely, like, I could feel my heartbeat going boom, 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 boom. And I think that if I hadn't been, like, pausing so much to analyze and take notes, I probably would have started crying, and I usually do end up crying whenever I rewatch this scene. Pixel's reaction absolutely freaking breaks my heart. And Nia, I don't even think Cole actually hugs her back. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna stop. But then we go into Zane's funeral, and I think this is the scene that really like shook me up as a child. I'll replace Kai's speech with a speech of my own about Zane. Um, I think as a kid I really related to Zane. I might have covered this in a previous video, but here's where it really like Zane is the weird one, right? Like he's kind of the weird one. As a kid, I was the weird one. I was the one like I mean, I don't want to be over dramatic, but I did kind of get bullied or like looked at weirdly for being the weird one as a kid like around this age. And so naturally, I kind of gravitated towards Zayn. I also always thought that he was like the nicest one. So I was like, oh, like I love him. And he's just precious. Like in these first few seasons, he has this like really sweet innocence to him. Like he's weird and quirky and a little off. Like, you know, he's not human, but he is oh so lovable in these like the first 3 seasons. He's wise and he's one of the most skilled ninja at this point. But he's always like he's also just like such a kind and gentle soul. And I think that's why the team like gets hit and the team and the fandom gets hit so deeply. Like I remember the fandom like freaking exploded when this scene first came out. Like I think originally along with Kai, Zayn was kind of the fan favorite and had a lot of characterization and story building around him. Like, we loved Zayn. I love Zayn. And I still love him. And even in the series, everybody acknowledges, like, come on, guys, it's Zayn. Like, oh, we can't do it. Like, Zayn. Like, we love Zayn. And then it starts freaking snowing. I remember, like, and then, like, while that happened, I kind of remembered this theory that I read that, this is kind of sad, that the Zayn we truly loved in seasons 1 through 3 did die. Like, just think about that for a second, because we all know he's gonna come back eventually. We even we don't see it, but we hear it at the end of this season. Zayn also still remains being one of my favorite ninja, but something about him from this point onward is a little different. Like, I still adore him, but there's still kind of like in the earlier seasons, there was just such a distinct and unique, innocent, yet grounding wisdom in Zayn during the earlier seasons, like the first 3. And even though I still love him, I still enjoy him, he's still one of my favorites, and like, it's just, there's something different about him. So when I read this theory, oh God, like, I really don't want to start crying right now, but I'll just leave that theory right there. Like, the OG Zayn, season 1 through 3 Zayn, died. Because, like, keep in mind, he rebuilt himself. But is it really the same Zayn? I'm just gonna leave that theory there. I don't remember who brought it up, but somebody did, and it, like, shook me to the core. And if I think about it too much, I'm gonna freak out. Especially since we arrive at the ending of this season. Pixel seems to be grieving so much that she couldn't even bear to go to his funeral. But then all of her memories of him like reappear in front of her, and she rushes off to the building majiggy room, and then we hear,
"Are we compatible now?"
Okay, I think this is where I actually started tearing up during this rewatch, because the musical score combined with everything that they just threw at us, and with Pixane being my favorite couple, yeah, I started tearing up. And I had to wait to calm down before I could go take a shower and get my laundry, because I didn't want anyone to see me crying. All right, so here's where I'm gonna kind of just go over the season as a whole. From what I've gathered, this season is a pretty mixed bag in the fandom. Like, some people adore it, some people hate it. Now, initially, I loved this season. Once again, with like Zayn being my favorite and me being super emotionally affected by this season, it became a common rewatch for me as a kid, and it continued to be one of my favorites for a very long time. Here's a comment that I made about 4 years ago when it came to like ranking the seasons. Not accurate anymore, by the way, just by the way. But as I rewatched and continued to see the show develop, my opinion changed a little bit. Here's another comment that I made about 6 months ago when I actually ranked the seasons with, like, up until Crystallized, no Dragons Rising yet, I don't think. Oh geez, I think I've just exposed myself a little bit. Well, okay. Not gonna say spoiler alert because this is why we're doing my rewatch. Also, yeah, this is not like my order, I would say. I'm extremely indecisive and I change my mind a lot. But again, this is why I'm doing this series because my opinion is probably gonna change. But I genuinely do think that my opinion is closer to what I said in that comment than it was in the past. Like I've said, there are things that I did like and a lot of things that I did not like. I will get into that in a moment. But right now, I do have to say I do think this, like, kind of like I said with MLP, I do think that this is the weakest season so far, at least compared to, like, pure enjoyment of the first 2 seasons, and I'm gonna get into why. Like I've said throughout this entire video, and I know y'all are probably a little sick of me saying this, but the love triangle sucked. I will acknowledge that a lot of people, I've heard people say, like, they didn't like the love triangle, but they liked what became of it due to Cole and Jay's, like, reconciliation in season 4. And I agree with that to an extent because I love Cole and Jay's relationship. But oh my gosh, guys, this isn't just because I'm a major Cole stan and the 10-year-old me was genuinely going ballistic when this first came out, but it's just so poorly executed. I mean, like I've said, Nia is unfortunately absolutely insufferable during this season, and I hate to say it because she's a character that I actively want to root for. Jay and Cole are also not innocent in this matter. Jay jumps to conclusions and handles things very poorly out of insecurity, but Cole's even worse, and that, like, hurts me to say. I found that he was extremely out of character during this arc, and I especially hate that there was no reason that this should have happened, because it's confirmed that he never actually had feelings for her and he was just a bit confused because of the attention that she showed him. Honestly, it's giving a little... But that's another conversation that I won't get into yet. But here's the main thing. In season 1, Nia found a way to be relevant and stand out and kind of like show her strength in a way that was her own. In season 2, it was less so. She was more of like a supporting side character, but she was still like a useful and vital member to the team with uniqueness, and it stood out in her own several ways. This season really could have had her shine due to like her tech expertise and with new tech to work with. Like, oh my gosh, Samurai X could be Samurai like double X, triple X. But no. The only reason she really was relevant during the season is because of the relationship drama that she started and then refused to shut down despite it tearing half of the team apart. I could make a whole video about how messed up the love triangle is, but there are a lot of like rants and videos made discussing this topic and all the issues that I have, so I'm going to stop with the intense negative like energy and continue on. I know some people might think, so it's just the love triangle that you don't like, right? No. I've always had a problem with it, but no. There are more issues that I have, and here are some of them. Let's just be real, y'all. The writing this season is an absolute hot mess. It's been kind of acknowledged before that there were like several different quote-unquote endings of this season, like especially considering how weirdly this season aired. Like, they win, but then they reset, and then they take a huge L, but then they come back, and they win, and then they reset, and then another huge L, and then the finale? Yeah. Major pacing issue. This season is quite short and has like a smaller overall runtime than we've seen so far. This is not an issue in its own right. This story definitely could have worked even with the like 8 episode count, but the writing was just handled so poorly and it makes it difficult to follow. Like I said, I think that while the premiere is like a good introduction to the vibe of this new season of Ninjago, it was way too rushed. If some of the stupid relationship drama and other filler moments were cut down, we could have had more development about New Ninjago City, the space adventures, Pixane, and more team bonding and growing, which is one of my favorite parts of Ninjago, the dynamics between the main 6 characters. I am including Nia in this because she is a main character, like, let's be real. Yeah, I haven't rewatched most of the seasons, obviously, so far for this purpose, but the team seasons tend to be my preferred seasons. So, like, the next couple seasons, I'm gonna love, just saying. But also, a lot of plot points just end up getting so wound up that in some places it feels lazy, and then in some places it's just straight up confusing and disorganized and, like, doesn't tie things together, is just weird. But yeah, overall, the writing is just a hot mess. And that's why I think so far it's definitely the weakest. Yes, season 2 has all of that filler, but yeah, like it works better than whatever this was. That's my opinion. I mean, y'all don't have to agree with me. But so far, I have mostly only addressed my issues with this season. So a lot of you might be thinking, Karina, do you hate this season? And my answer is no, I don't. I know I've been kind of negative, but let me switch that around and focus on the things that I do enjoy about this season. Right off the bat, the animation and fight choreography is much crisper during the season. I love a lot of the action sequences, and I really enjoy the overall aesthetic and atmosphere of this season. While I do have a lot of issues with some of the characters this season, I enjoyed a lot of certain dynamics, most notably Pixane, as you figured out, but also the platonic and family relationship of Garmadon and Lloyd. Garmadon in general has always been a very entertaining character, but I love this, like, good but still sassy, like, side of him and how he helps Lloyd grow as a character. Lloyd starts off extremely cocky in this season. Like, remember, he's a teenager, and teenagers are kind of dumb. Like, I was kind of dumb as a teenager, for sure. And on top of that, he had defeated the Overlord prior to this, so he's kind of like, oh, well, I'm on top of the world. But then he discovers that even with his golden power, he is not invincible, and he has no room to be cocky. Garmadon kind of, like, guides him throughout these discoveries and roadblocks, as well as continues to be hilarious. So yes, I really enjoy their dynamic, and Sensei G is one of my favorite parts of this season and of the next couple of seasons, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Also, while the whole, like, Overlord returning thing isn't my favorite, I did like the, like, Nindroid and tech concepts coming together, as well as the significance around power and reliance on it to get by. That was really interesting. I definitely didn't pick up on that as a kid, but that was really engaging and interesting to think about as an adult. So yeah, there are a lot of things that I do like about this season, and while I do think the writing is bad, like, I'll just say it, the writing is not good. It also contained one of the first moments in the show to genuinely make me emotional and invested on another level. Like, obviously I was always a fan, but this got me hyped for season 4 and beyond. I do have my gripes with this season, obviously, but I have a soft spot for it. It originally was one of, like, I don't know. Even though I have my issues with it, I still have a soft spot for it despite everything. So now, at the end of my, like, season reviews for all of the, like, nostalgia trip reviews that I do, I go through, like, my favorite episodes, like, a ranking of them overall, and then I'll rank, like, the 6 main ninja, and then I'll kind of tell y'all, like, the average ranking of them so far, and then I'll wrap things up. So here's a tier list of the episodes. I kind of just, like, slapped it together so it's not completely accurate, but this is overall, I guess, my ranking. It's a little scattered because I didn't really find any of the episodes to be quote-unquote great. I just put the Titanium Ninja there because of how deeply it emotionally affected me. But yeah, my favorite, okay, I'll start with least favorite. I guess my least favorites were Blackout and The Art of the Silent Fist, just because these were supposed to be, like, the beginning, like putting together what we should be expecting of this season, and it just was not good. Like, I don't think they're inherently bad episodes, they just don't set up for a good season. I'll just say that. Like obviously I do find my entertainment in all of these episodes, even though it doesn't sound like it, I do. But they just don't set anything up to be great, if I'm being honest. My favorites were definitely The Void and The Golden Master. Or The Curse of the Golden Master, I think that's what it's called. Yeah. Those two were definitely my favorites. I think they were just the most overall consistent and plot oriented. I think if I had to pick a favorite, I'd go with The Void, surprisingly. Which surprised me a little bit. I don't remember that being one of my favorites. I do remember Curse of the Golden Master and the Titanium Ninja being like my two favorites, but The Void is underrated, and I actually really enjoyed that episode. Yeah. Pleasant surprises. I didn't really have any this season, but I figured I'd mention Enter the Digiverse just because I did used to like hate that episode and skip it whenever I rewatched this, or like I just didn't like care for it, but I actually did kind of like it because it focused more on like dynamics and there was little to no love triangle. So no, but in all seriousness, I did enjoy that episode more than I did a lot of other episodes. So yeah, I call that a W. So like I said, I do always rank the main 6 ninjas. So or at this point, the main 5 plus Nia. So for season 3, the order is Zane at number 1, who has been the reigning champion of the past 3 seasons. Spoiler alert, this will change in season 4, so yeah. But Zane continues to keep his title as my favorite ninja so far. And in second place, I was kind of shifting between Kai and Lloyd. I do think that Lloyd had more like character development throughout this season, which made him like a more interesting character. But I don't know, even though Kai was kind of stupid this season, I actually really enjoyed him. Like I don't know. So I think I'm actually gonna give Kai second place, surprisingly. And then Lloyd third place. But Lloyd definitely had like a more interesting character arc. But Zane again was like by far my favorite during this season. So Zane, Kai, Lloyd. Then we get to the ones that I'm not a huge fan of. Fourth place, I gotta give it to Jay. Because even though he was annoying because of the whole like love triangle thing, I think he did have a lot of like fun moments because he's a tech guy. So like he had shining moments in The Void and Enter the Digiverse, and like, you know, he had great moments during this, and he's moved up a little bit in my rankings this season because I previously had him pretty low. And this breaks my heart so much because I love him. I promise I do. But Cole gets 5th place because, my dude, you fed into the love triangle. Come on. Like, he, in character, should have just shut it down and been like, Nia, look, I like you, but not like that. I feel like that is what he would do, but instead they took it in this direction, and I hated it. He does have some good moments. Like, he wasn't completely insufferable throughout this season. Like, yeah, he had some good moments, especially in, like, The Surge and The Void, and, like, yeah, he has good moments, but I did not care for him this season, sadly. I'm sorry, Cole baby, I love you so much, but, Nia, y'all know how I feel about her this season at this point. Obviously, 6th place. Yeah, was not vibing with her at all this season. Sorry. She had very few redeeming moments, and I can't justify putting anyone else last place. And again, that makes me sad because, like, Nia, you're my girl. You should be higher up than this. Like, you're better than this, girlie. Hopefully we get better. It's gonna take a while for me to warm up to Nia. Let me just say that, because as a kid, I was like, nope, I hate Nia. But, like, now growing up, I'm like, okay, girl, I don't like you during this season. Other seasons, let us talk. So before season 3, the average ranking of the ninja were Zane, and then tied for 2nd and 3rd were Cole and Kai, and then I had Lloyd, Nia, Jay. Again, disclaimer, I love all of the ninja. I really, really do. Yes, including Nia. It's just I go by season. So this season, I didn't like her at all. But in general, I love her because I love all 6 of the ninja. But after season 3, the average has now become Zayn with first place, and then Kai in second place, and then Cole and Lloyd have surprisingly tied for third place. Yeah. Yeah, they had like the same overall average. And then Jay is in 4th place, or I guess 5th place, and then Nia is in 6th place. But we still have 12 seasons and then Dragons Rising to go. So this order is for sure to shuffle. And again, I love all of them. Really, I do. So please don't hate me. But as of where I would place this season, I have stated that I definitely do think it's weaker than the first 2 seasons. Like, I have season 1 as my favorite, Rise of the Snakes, and then Legacy of the Green Ninja, I have it kind of averaged out to be like a B or a B plus. Like, I'm talking as if it was on a tier list, because the filler is meh, but the second half is like peak. So it lands like just under season 1. And then Rebooted, if I had to give it like a letter grade, I would say it's like a low B or a high C, sadly. So yeah, maybe I'd give it like a B minus, let's say. So definitely weaker than the first 2 seasons. And not my favorite, but I don't hate this season. And like I said, I have a soft spot for it, and it does have some really amazing moments to it. So yeah, that is my overall review of Rebooted. Next, I'm probably going to move on to season 4 of My Little Pony, and then a new series I have decided to throw into the mix, which I have teased in a few of my other videos. So yeah, that one is probably going to be coming up next because I've been itching to rewatch it, and then it'll be MLP season 4 and Ninjago season 4. Some of you might have noticed that I have not updated my Five Nights at Freddy's series. I'm not discontinuing it, but I have kind of realized that with my workload this year, I won't really have time to sit down and play it once a week. So I'll play it like steadily when I have time, and then come out with videos when I can. They'll probably be in a different style from now on, but I'm not canceling the series. So those of you who subscribed for Five Nights at Freddy's, thank you so much, and I promise that I'll upload more Five Nights at Freddy's videos. Just maybe not right away, and more so like at my leisure, like when I have time, especially since I have a feeling that my next few episodes of it, should I say, are gonna be kind of rough. But thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Also, thank you so much for 102 subscribers, y'all. I'm honestly really grateful. I'm going to be having a lot of new opportunities soon as I head towards the end of college and like start a career. So it's great to have this platform, even if it is quite small. I really appreciate it, really, and thanks to those of you who have stuck with me since the beginning. I love and appreciate all of you. I ask that in the comments, please be respectful. I know this season is a little controversial and there's mixed opinions, and I'm 100% cool hearing other people's opinions, even if you disagree, 100%. But if you do disagree 100% or at all in general, I just ask that you speak on it in a respectful way and are either willing to discuss or agree to disagree. Because I don't want toxicity on this channel. But super excited for the next few seasons, since if you noticed, they are amongst my favorites. Keep on dreaming, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye!